Alright, let's go. Let the Discord know. Support chat. We are live. Okay. Let's see here. Let's get the stream pulled up on my end. There we go. Right there. Okay. What is up, everybody? Wonderbro here with Vacate Fear. We're doing another stream. We are doing another stream. We streamed this morning. Very good stream. I highly recommend it. If you weren't able to catch it, check it out. It's uploaded on the channel right now. Go check it out. But we were having some discussion in the Discord. We were having some discussion in the Discord chat um, today, and it kind of made me think. Well, maybe we could do another. Maybe we could knock out another stream. So here we are. Hola. What up, Mia? Madison, can we move the wedding up? Of course. What's up? Yo, John, what's up? What's up, everybody? Come on, come on. I forgot to turn on the lights again. Damn it. Damn it. Okay, okay. Hold on, hold on. All right, we're good. We're good. We got it. We got it. What's up, Street Fighter? What's up, Will? How you guys doing? Ugh, ugh. So today's stream, like I was saying, this morning's stream was a great stream, but I was very low energy because I had just gotten out of bed. Here it is like 1 p.m. and I don't know what to do with my life. So I'm like, you know what? You know what? It doesn't feel right not streaming, even though technically we've already done today's stream. So we're just gonna do another one. We're just gonna do another one. We've made some pretty cool changes to the Discord chat, by the way. I'm gonna drop that link right there. I'm gonna drop that link right there. Anybody can join. Feel free. Feel free. Let me see. How's everybody doing today? So today we are going to be talking about a life-changing mantra if used correctly. If used correctly. This is the key word here. Okay, the key statement. If used correctly. This mantra, okay, will not serve you. It will not do you any good, and it will not help you at all if it's not used correctly. However, if used correctly, this mantra can literally change your life. Now, when I say it, when we get to the point of the stream here in just a minute, you're going to be like, I've heard that a million times, bro. Why are you bringing me this? This isn't something new. This isn't something groundbreaking. Yes, you've probably heard it a million times before. But the likelihood that you're actually using it the way that it's meant to be used, mm, doubtful. Doubtful. So today we're going to talk about it. Let me see. All right. All right. All right. All right. We're about 4 minutes into this thing. We let the Discord chat know that we're live. That's another thing, guys. If the notification bell is letting you down, join the Discord. We always let the Discord know when we are live streaming. I know a lot of people are I've kind of been let down by the notification system on YouTube. So if that continues to happen to you, join us over on Discord. That's one sure way to always be notified when we go live. I try to always let the Discord know. What's up, Holds, dude? Welcome to the stream. How you doing, man? All right. All right, guys. We're about 5 minutes into this thing. I'm like getting pulled here because my headset is like so close to dying, so I've got to leave it plugged up, but there's not a whole lot of give. So I'm kind of like being pulled this way. Anyway, we're going to get into the point of today's stream. Life-changing mantra, key statement, if used correctly. So, show of hands in the chat. How many people here have heard the mantra at one point or another in your life? It is what it is. How many people, show of hands, how many people have heard that mantra? It is what it is. We see it everywhere. It's all over social media. The hipsters use it a lot. Everybody likes to throw that mantra around a lot. It is what it is, right, man? People say that so nonchalantly, okay? But I guaranteed 90%, 95% of the people that like to throw that mantra around, it is what it is, are not using it correctly. Let me explain. This mantra can change your life. Literally. Literally can change your life. However, if you are not using it the way it is meant to be used, it will do nothing for you. Okay? It is as good as saying anything. Okay? It'll do nothing for you if it is not used the way it is meant to be used. This is a beautiful mantra if you can apply it to your feelings and your thoughts, right? But if you're just saying it to say it, it's not going to do anything for you. So here's the problem, okay? If you lived by that mantra, you would drop second fear. There'd be no second fear because if you lived by that mantra, there'd be no involvement. And we know involvement is second fear. We know involvement is human suffering. This is what gets those feelings ramped up. This is what gets those horror stories going. This is what gets those thoughts fueled. Okay, all that involvement. So if you lived by that, it can be truly life-changing. However, let's get to the problem. The problem is people say that. They say that mantra, it is what it is, but then they continue talking. Then they continue adding to the story. So let's say you have an anxiety symptom and you said, you know what, it is what it is. And then you put a big old fat period on the end of that, there'd be no second fear. There'd be no second fear. That'd be a quick way to healing. But the problem is people say that mantra, they go, okay, here's this anxiety symptom. It is what it is. And then a few seconds later, okay, I might go crazy because of this. I might have a heart attack if this doesn't stop. How can I escape this situation? How can I get out of here? What if this? What if that? Coulda, woulda, shoulda been, right? They say that phrase, it is what it is, but there's no period. They just keep going. They just keep going. You've defeated the entire purpose of even opening your mouth and saying that mantra. It's no good for you now. It's no good. It serves no purpose. There was no point of you even saying it to begin with. So, let's take an example of someone who uses it correctly, and then we'll explain why this can be so life-changing. Let's say you have an anxiety symptom. You notice it, you're aware of it. Again, there's nothing wrong with being aware of symptoms. There's nothing wrong with being aware of negative intrusive thoughts. You're going to be aware, right? But let's say you experience these things and you say to yourself, it is what it is. But then you put a period. You do what you're supposed to do, and you put a period, a big old period right at the end of that statement, which means you say it, okay, there's that symptom, there's that negative intrusive thought, it is what it is. And then you put a period. There's no more talking, there's no more yapping from you. There's no more yapping from you. You leave it at that. You leave it at that. Now, if you were to use that mantra in that way, that would be the correct way, and this mantra could change your life. Because if you had an anxiety symptom and you said, you know what, it is what it is, and you put a big old period and you quit yapping and you didn't carry the story on any longer than that, the mental story, then that would be perfect. You wouldn't be adding second fear, you wouldn't be adding resistance, there would be no mental judgment, but you can't say that mantra and then keep yapping to yourself in your head or out loud, whatever. If you're going to use that mantra, you got to put the period. The most important part of that mantra, if you want to use it correctly, if you want it to be life-changing for you, is that you have to put that period. Because you really defeat the purpose of the mantra if you state it and then keep yapping. There's no point. You might as well have saved your breath and not even said it. All right, so I'm going to unplug here. Hopefully the headset doesn't die mid-rant. Let's apply this. I got sick of being stuck down here. Let's apply this to a negative intrusive thought. Let's say you're sitting there minding your own business and the thought pops in your head. Whatever, you can apply this to your situation, but let's give an example. Let's say you had the negative intrusive thought as you're sitting there minding your own business, playing a video game, whatever, and you've got the negative intrusive thought that pops up that says, you might become sensitized again, or this thing is going to ruin your life, or you might end up in a nut house, or whatever. Apply it to your own situation. If you wanted to use this mantra correctly, you would notice that negative intrusive thought. There it is. It's knocking on your door. And you could say to yourself, it is what it is. Go back to whatever it is you were doing. Don't judge that thought. Don't label that thought. Don't interpret that thought. Just simply, it is what it is, period. And the reason I keep saying period is because that's so important. If you keep yapping after it is what it is, you've defeated the entire purpose. There's no point in doing it, okay? There's absolutely no point in using that mantra if you keep yapping after you say it. Because the entire purpose of it is what it is for you to drop it. There's that thought. I'm not going to do anything with it. Nothing. Period. I'm not going to try to push against it, pull against it, fight it, judge it, label, interpret it, tell a story about it, tell a narrative about it. I'm not doing jack all, okay? Nothing. So if you use that mantra the correct way, there's that negative intrusive thought. It is what it is. I get back to what I'm doing. I put a big period on the end of that statement. That is perfect, and that will change your life, okay? Same for feelings. There's that anxiety symptom. I'm aware of it. It is what it is. Big old period. You quit yapping after you say the mantra, right? There's no more yapping after you make that phrase known. It is what it is, period. Okay? So, if you lived by this mantra the way it's supposed to be used, the way it's meant to be used, it could be life-changing because it drops second fear. What is second fear? It's involvement, it's judging, it's labeling, it's interpreting, it's resisting. This is all done through the mind. This is all a mental activity. All these things are they fall under the same category, mental activity. So if you use this mantra the way it's supposed to be used, as in, I feel a feeling, it is what it is. I have this negative intrusive thought, you know what, it is what it is. Maybe there's a life situation. Of course, if you can change a negative life situation, go for it. If you can't change it, you know what, it is what it is. I'm not going to tell a story about it. I'm not going to get involved up here about it. Do you see what I'm getting at? If you use this mantra the way it's supposed to be used, it can be life-changing. Unfortunately, 90 to 95%, I would guess, of the population runs around making this mantra their Facebook bio. It says it right under their picture. It is what it is, with some like fancy little emojis, bullshit, whatever. They put it on the caption of their profile picture. It is what it is, with this little sign. It is what it is. They do it on Instagram. They do it on their Snapchat story. Hey, it is what it is. But they're not using it. They like to say it. They like the way it sounds. It sounds nice. But after they say it, they keep yapping. They keep getting involved in all the mental activity. They keep telling a story up here. They keep telling a narrative. If you want to use it the way it's supposed to be used, it is what it is. Drop it. No more involvement. Let the thought be there. It is what it is. Let the feeling come. Let the feeling go. It is what it is. Let the life situation unfold. It is what it is. But if you're not putting a period, okay, and again, this is so important. It's why I keep repeating it. If you're not putting a period on the end of it is what it is, you might as well not even waste your breath saying it. Okay? That mantra is aimed at a very important truth, a very deep truth. Everybody loves using it, but nobody likes using it the correct way. That mantra is beautiful. But if you're not putting the period on the end of it is what it is, if you say that and then continue talking to yourself, continue judging, continue getting involved in all this mental activity, like I said, you might as well have not have even wasted your breath saying it to begin with. So that is the point of today's stream, guys. If you want that to be your life mantra, yes, it will heal you. It will change your life. It'll help you drop involvement, whatever you want to call it. It's second fear, involvement, resistance, judging. It'll help you let these feelings and thoughts come and go without getting involved in them. And we know involvement is the pain. Involvement is the fuel to the fire. This mantra can change your life. It can, as long as you don't leave out that period. So that means if you're going to use it, you got to drop all self-talk outside of that. You've got to use it and drop all self-talk outside of that. When you say that statement, that's got to be the end of it. There's no more getting involved with thoughts. You've already said your mantra. There's no more getting involved in telling horror stories about your feelings. You've already said the mantra. Because Again, if you're going to get involved, okay, with this mental inner dialogue after you say it is what it is, well, then you've wasted your time anyway. You shouldn't have even said it. So, if used correctly, okay, key statement there. If used correctly, this is a life changing mantra, and it can be yours if you like it, as long as you use it correctly. So, that was the point of today's stream, you guys. I'm going to read some comments. I'm going to read some comments and hang out with you guys. Face Paint, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Hello. Edward, what's up, dude? Uh, John T, what's up, man? Margaret, I hate it. Yeah, I mean, that mantra, hearing so many people try to use it and just knowing that they're not using it correctly can be very frustrating. But you know what? You know what, chat? It is what it is. Are you live again? Yes, because it felt really weird to do my stream so early today. You know, the daily stream, we knocked it out at like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that. It was like 8 or 9 my time. And so I was sitting here like I'm already caught up on everything else. I've done quite a few things today. I've got things done. So I'm like, you know what? We could easily squeeze in another stream, no problem. So here we are. Do you think if I learn to allow other feelings and express them, that this could help anxiety? So you should never be in contrast with your feelings, right? Your feelings are what they are. It is what it is. You should never try to deny or fight off the way that you feel, because in the long term, this is just resistance. This is just fuel to the fire, right? Man, it's. I hope I said that right with the $10 tip. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so very much, dude. You're in the Discord, right? I believe. Let's get you added to the stream MVP's legendary advice. I appreciate that. So, guys, again, if you're going to use this, make sure you use it the right way. Make sure you use it the right way. Um, Thank you so much for the $10 tip. I appreciate it, man. Truly grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. I think also realizing you aren't responsible for your thoughts is such a nice relief. It does help me realizing that sometimes. Yeah, you're not responsible for the negative, intrusive thoughts that come. What you are responsible for, though, and what you absolutely must take responsibility for, is what you do with them. Of course, we recommend that you do nothing with them, because the more you do something, the more you just multiply and attract more, right? And fuel the fire. So you're not responsible for what thoughts come. You are responsible for what you do with them. And you do need to take responsibility for that part. Finally changed my name. Okay, got you, dude. Nice. Got back into my head again. It lasted 4 days. I was like, why did it come back instead of it is what it is, period? I like how you put the period in all caps. Somebody gets it. Somebody gets it. Back on track, feeling good, and my sensation are going fast. That's awesome. You know what? We need learning experiences. There's nothing wrong with learning experiences. I always like to say that it's good to stay on top of yourself. It's good to hold yourself responsible, but at the same time, it does no good to beat yourself up. So I like the way you look at it. Okay, it happened. It is what it is, period, in all caps. I like that. Somebody gets it. Grateful for you in the community. Grateful for you, my man. Appreciate all that you do. Thanks for watching. Are you from Canada? Are you asking me or somebody else in chat? I'm not sure. I'm not from Canada. But yeah, these learning opportunities, these learning experiences, they're gonna happen. Nobody's perfect. Nobody, 9 times out of 10, I never see anybody come into chat that just gets it right away and just runs with it. I mean, I guess that's possible, but it's kind of unheard of. So there's nothing wrong with having not setbacks, not mistakes, but learning experiences. That's the best way we can put that, right? So if you're gonna, if you're gonna move forward, if you're gonna use this mantra, if you liked what you heard today, please, guys, make sure you add that period. It is what it is, period, which means you're not talking to yourself past that point. There's no more talking past that point, whether it be trying to fight with positivity or trying to just be, or just being downright negative. There's no more sort of involvement. When I say period, that means dropped, right? So if you're going to use what you heard today in the stream, make sure you do it the right way, or else there's really no point. there's really no point if you don't use it the right way. You're just wasting your breath. I did wake up mad early today, didn't I? Is that a Canadian thing? Do Canadians just wake up mad early? But I never understood second fear until I met you. And that's okay. Learning experience, right? You're here to learn, but the most important part, guys, the most important part of the equation is if you're going to learn, that's great. That's obviously the first step. You can't do anything without that part of the equation. But if you're not actually using it, if you're not actually practicing it, you're probably not going to get very far. Sometimes I find myself feeling a lot better in myself because I've left my thoughts alone. And all of a sudden, I put this massive pressure on myself to stay that way, which gets me back to square one. Right, so notice these feelings and thoughts as they come, but there's no narrative, there's no story, okay? There's no narrative, there's no story, none of that. It is what it is, the mantra, right? But you got to put that period. And whenever I've been trying your advice in almost 5 years of being sensitized, I've made some good progress I've never seen. Still got a long road ahead, but it is what it is. I love that, dude. I love that. You guys are catching on. You guys are on it today. I love that. I'm sticking to Wonder Bro because it reminds me from my old anxiety days receiving help from the old Wonder Bro. You're awesome and grateful for your presence. Hey, I appreciate it. You can call me whatever you want to call me. A lot of people still call me Wonder Bro. I introduce myself still as Wonder Bro. If you'll notice, every time we start a stream, it's always, "What's up, guys? Wonder Bro here with Vacate Fear." With Vacate Fear. So, I don't know. You could look at Vacate Fear as like just my channel, my brand. It's not an actual brand yet, but there you go. Months later, I still experience anxiety every day. So chances are you're not leaving it alone, right? Chances are it's not is what it is for you. Chances are there's still a lot of narrative, there's a lot of story. This is okay, you're learning. There's a lot of narrative, there's a lot of story, there's a lot of self-talk about your condition, there's a lot of self-talk about your situation. Self-talk, 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 self-talk. Your days are spent from the moment you wake to the moment you go to sleep with self-talk, self-talk, self-talk. You might think you're being positive, but that's still a fight. You might think you're just being downright negative. That's obviously not good. Whatever the self-talk is, if it's about all of, this and that and your anxiety and your symptoms, too much. Too much self-talk, too much self-talk. This is the reason you're still in the cycle. This is the reason the body still continues to pop off. Okay, so chances are you're using the advice, but there's a lot of self-talk about using the advice. There's a lot of obsession, there's a lot of narrative, there's a lot of story, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of going on up here. So that's why we say it is what it is. Your feelings come, it is what it is, period. Thoughts come, okay, there's that thought, it is what it is, period. Right? We're cutting out all this other we're trimming the fat here. There's no more excessive self-talk because this is what keeps you obsessed. It's what keeps you in the cycle. So that was the point of today's stream. It was a good one. It was a good one. I highly recommend if you're joining us late to watch this stream back. Watch this stream back. We talk about how if you're going to use it is what it is, that'll be great for your healing. It'll be tremendous for your healing. But you got to use it the right way, which means it is what it is, period. There's no more self-talk after that. If there's any more self-talk after it is what it is, you're doing it wrong. You're too involved. You're already too involved. Emoji calls it logged in. Whatever. You're already too involved. Okay, this is fuel to the fire. This is the obsession. This is the extra stress. This is the suffering, whatever you want to call it. I find myself going back to old habits of putting narratives. Yeah, narratives, stories. It's all this going on up here. I just got to leave it as it is what it is. Yes. Do you have any specific meditation videos, channels that maybe you use during your healing process? I didn't even get into the whole meditation thing during my process, my healing process. I just learned about acceptance through Dr. Claire Weeks, and I stopped following those negative intrusive thoughts. So, which in itself is a form of meditation. Don't get confused on labels. That in itself is a form of meditation. If there's a lot of self-talk saying, "Well, I need to find the right meditation in order to heal," that's your problem. That question that you presented to yourself, that narrative that you've got going on in your head, I need to find this in order to heal. That's why you're not healing. That's part of the reason why you're not healing. Do you see where we're going with this? Too much self-talk. Is second fear self-talk? Yeah, that's where second fear is born. That's where second fear is born. Isn't that logging in with the thought? That's just a quick reminder. There's nothing wrong with a quick reminder, okay, to not log into a thought. There's nothing wrong with a quick reminder because you got to understand you're going from logging into thoughts for hours and hours and hours on end, hours and days and weeks and months, and you're going from all that to just a quick little reminder. You see what I'm saying? Just a quick little reminder. It is what it is. A little reminder to yourself to not log in with the thoughts, to not go there with the thoughts. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as the end goal is the same, which is, of course, to not log in. But if you're spending 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours, the rest of your day logging in, then that's a problem. A reminder's not a problem, but the hours on end and the days on end and the weeks on end, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Now, we're not saying you can stop your thoughts from coming. You can't, but you can stop yourself from logging in. It is what it is. There's that thought. It is what it is, man. Drop it. Period. I'm not trying to tell you to force the thought out, but you're not getting involved. There's that thought. It is what it is. It might come back 5 minutes later. You know what? It is what it is. That feeling is there. It is what it is. It might come back 5 minutes later. You know what? It is what it is. Might come back 10 minutes later. You know what? It is what it is. As long as you're putting that period there and there's no more self talk after that, then you're not involved. You're not invested, and these things can't get fueled, right? We got a $15 tip from, let me see, Jerry. I hope I said that right. Jerry, Gary, Jerry, Gary, Jerry. I think I said that right. Thank you so much, Jerry. I'm going to call you Jerry. Hopefully that is correct. He says, never stop what you're doing. I think I talk for many when I say how simply you break down the anxiety/depression cycle into simple to understand terms, lessons, and takes away its power of us daily. Thanks again, bro, for all that you do. Have a great Christmas. You deserve it. Hey, man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That was really nice. Thank you. That was very nice of you. Thank you for that tip and thank you for that note. I appreciate it. Let me get you added to the stream MVPs. Thank you once again, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't know what I would do without you guys. I can't do the keto. I've heard of keto. Obviously, I've never tried it. I mean, you can look at me and tell I've never tried keto. This stream and going back to living life are the best advices. Helps to not logging into your thoughts, feelings all day, and when they do show up, shut up. It is what it is. Exactly. And remember, you're not trying to force the thoughts out. I like to make that so clear because a lot of people get confused on that. The thoughts will come. They will knock. That is fine. You're just reminding yourself it is what it is, period. You're not getting involved. The feelings will come. It is what it is, period. You're not getting involved. Over time, they will fade. Your non involvement will lead to them fading over time, right? It'll lead to healing over time. It'll lead to them fading over time. Of course, that is the end goal. But you know what? For now, it is what it is. And there's nothing more added outside of that. There's nothing more added outside of that. Hard time being happy, very common during sensitized bouts. Tired throughout the day, also very common. And hypersensitivity, also extremely common. These are all very common symptoms of the sensitized state. If you're watching the streams, if you listen to the advice, I already assume that you've been cleared by a doctor and been told that you're suffering with anxiety. Obviously, because I am not a doctor, but yes, those are all very common symptoms with the sensitized state. Thanks again for that, Jerry. That was a very, I'm still thinking about it. That was a very sweet tip note. Thank you so much. Not adding second fear. Yes, so I mean, a lot of people get carried away, right? They feel these feelings and automatically they start telling a story about them, and that story is the problem. That story is the suffering. It should be, it is what it is, period, and that should be the end of it. Same with the intrusive thoughts that come, but people get too involved, they get too invested, and this leads to the obsession. This leads to the rabbit hole. This leads to the suffering. So that's why this mantra, key statement, if used correctly, can be so life changing. That's exactly why it can be so life changing, because you're essentially taking your foot off the gas. You're taking the foot off the gas. So, yeah, my therapist told me it's the anxiety disorder. No problem, man. I just like to make that clear, especially if it's a name in chat that I've never seen before. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. You should always go get cleared by a doctor. You know what? I'm just your average dude. I'm just your average dude sharing what I know. So, all right, guys, it is that time. Hold up. There we go. You guys know what that means, and if you don't know what that means, it means it's the time during the stream where I'm gonna catch a smoke. But I'm still here. I'm still here. Unless you see the BRB screen, I'm still here. I can still see comments. God, my dog sheds so bad, bro. Yeah, holds. I agree. I agree. It's so tempting. It comes down to this. It's so tempting for people to get involved mentally with their thoughts and feelings because they feel like they need to in order to get some sort of relief. That's a lie. That's a lie. And your involvement is the reason you're not experiencing relief. So actually, the opposite is true. Actually, the opposite is true. Jay Awesome. All right, I got you, dude. I got you. Yeah, the name changes and stuff. It takes me a minute to catch on. It takes me a minute to catch on. But yeah, I personally I love that mantra. I hate how overused it is. It's kind of, it's kind of frustrating in a way when you see everybody throw that mantra around, but they're not respecting what it is at its core because they have no idea the power behind that mantra because it's become just common slang in today's society. That's all it is. It is what it is. Has become more common slang that it has, uh, you know, a powerful mantra. It's just slang. So I really wanted to make this stream, and I've been wanting to make it for quite some time, um, because there is so much power and there's so much healing behind that statement if it's used correctly. If it's used correctly. I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, there's plenty of good therapists and doctors out there, and obviously, if you're seeing a therapist or a doctor, keep seeing them. Like, do not stop seeing your doctor or therapist. But that's the thing too. There's a lot that, you know, maybe they don't know about acceptance. They're humans. At the end of the day, they are still humans. Maybe there's a lot out there that just never read a Claire Weeks book. Maybe there's a lot out there that just don't know the concept of acceptance. Have never heard of the term second fear. At the end of the day, humans are humans. So, getting qualified as a therapist, do you think I could do it with all these face tattoos? Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Because I personally have never seen a therapist with face tattoos. I've just never seen it. I've never seen it. But honestly, dude, I really don't want to do that because all my time's going to be spent doing that, and then I won't have as much time left for the channel anymore. I wouldn't have as much time left for the channel anymore. The channel would become second to me. And this channel, I'm never going to allow this channel to become second to me. This channel is here for free advice. This is a free source of information to help people stop suffering. I never want to be a sellout. Fuck that. Fuck that shit. Plus, I hate reading books. That's awesome. You got a good therapist then, Jay. Awesome. I don't really offer courses. It's more or less just coaching. Anybody can do life coaching, and that's what I offer. So I offer life coaching. It's not really a program. It's not really a course. Everything that you need to know has been said on the channel and will continue to be said on the channel. The coaching is completely optional. It's not like I'm holding out any sort of secret information that you can only access unless you do coaching with me. That's yeah, I don't roll like that. It's completely optional. But you can feel free to toss me a DM on the Discord and no promises, but I'll do my best to get back to you. If one of my mods wants to drop the link to the Discord, please. It's like I can see comments from where I'm at, but I'm not actually over at my setup. 9.1k subs. I know, right, dude? We were just celebrating 9k subs. It feels like last week, and we've already gained 100 subs since then, so it's pretty awesome. I feel like half of the draw to this channel, and I'm not saying it's never been done before. There's hundreds of mental health channels from just average people, but I would like to assume that I'm one of the more, I don't know how to put this without sounding like I'm offending or knocking the other channels. I just try to be as real as possible. Does that make sense? I just try to be as real as possible and be myself as much as possible, and I feel like that's what people really enjoy about the channel because it's relatable, right? And I'm not saying it's never been done before. Like I said, there's hundreds of anxiety channels from average people out there. Um, but not many anxiety channels, you know, are like mine in the sense that I will go on as a normal person and not try to present myself in such a professional way. And if I got a fart, I fart. If I got a burp, I burp. Um, I've covered in tattoos and face tats, and I'm pretty sure I've showed my gut, my beer belly on stream before, and like did the Goonies dance with it. Like where else? I don't think that exists anywhere else. So what is the mantra? The mantra is it is what it is, but you got to use it correctly. You got to put a period at the end of it is what it is. You can't say it is what it is to your thoughts and feelings and then carry on the story mentally or continue the self talk mentally because at that point you've just wasted your breath. So that's what we talked about today in a nutshell, but I highly recommend you go back and watch the stream if you don't have anything else to do. Yeah, I don't have any programs. No programs. The Truffle Shuffle, yes, I did that on stream once. I did that on stream once. And that's my point. People kind of like the down to earth, funny, like kind of comical but straightforward, no bullshit approach. I think people respect that. Don't get me wrong. I love shit like Moji and Eckhart Tolle, and I have my moods. We all have our moods. I have my moods where I like to present myself in a more calm, relaxed way. Um, but I love shit like that. I love Eckhart Tolle. I love Moji. But let's be honest. We're not always in the mood for that. We're not always in the mood for that. Sometimes we just like the straightforward, no bullshit, no fancy terms approach, right? I think we can all agree on that. Sometimes we prefer it that way. And I get that. I get that. All right. But, sometimes I do have my moods. sometimes I like to present myself in a more chilled out Eckhart Tolle Moji kind of way. You know, one day you might watch a stream where I don't curse at all and I'm really laid back and I'm talking a little bit more sophisticated. And then other days I'm a little bit more of a live wire. I'm just true to myself. True to myself, right? You get a whole grab bag here. You never know what you'll see. You never know what to expect. Whatever my mood is, it is what it is. I just roll with it. Stream's gonna lag for just a second. There we go. There we go. Well, some might argue that the I wouldn't even call it a problem, but we'll use that term. Some might argue that the problem with Eckhart Tolle and Moji is that they're a little bit complex. They speak in a more complex, sophisticated nature, and it's just because they're present. They're present and they're speaking from a place, of true being. So sometimes they're a little slow getting to the point. Sometimes they're a little slow. Sometimes they're a little sophisticated. It's just, it's a mixture of their personality and their state of being. Um, but it's all good stuff. It's all great stuff. I highly recommend Moji and Eckhart Tolle and my boy Alan Watts. He's a little bit more down to earth in the way he presents himself, but at the same time he's pretty on some things. But I still I still recommend all of these great teachers. The problem with it is though sometimes you've got people in a very deep sensitized state that are not quite prepared to digest all of those sophisticated terms and the way that they put things and the pace that they go at. And I realize that. I realize that. I'm not saying they don't realize that, but I am saying that I get it. When you're in a sensitized state, sometimes it's all you can do to keep your head up, much less try to digest and comprehend what Moji and Toli are saying, right? So my approach has always been a more direct approach, a more relatable approach. And then once we get you to that point where you feel like you've made some progress and you've healed and you want to deepen your spiritual journey, then you can move on to things like Toli Emoji and all that good stuff. Which is what I did. When I was highly sensitized, I kept my main focus mostly on Dr. Claire Weeks, right? Um, and then after I started to heal a bit, as time went on, then I kind of advanced to things like Toli and Moji, things like that. So reading that stuff was way too complicated at first. You got to have somewhere to start. And this channel kind of serves as your start. We cover all of the deep topics. We cover all of the spiritual topics. We do all that stuff, but we do it in a very simple manner for people that are in a sensitized state so they can easily digest it. But once you feel like you've healed, once you feel like you kind of have a firm understanding of what we're talking about, then you can kind of move on to stuff like Toli Emoji if you'd like. It all starts to make a lot more sense. Exactly, Holds. It all starts to make a lot more sense, and then you can kind of move on to other teachers that are a bit more, I don't know, that word things a bit more sophisticatedly. Sophisticatedly, is that a word? Charles Linden. I've heard of it, but I've never actually studied any of his stuff really. Do you believe in some of the spiritual concepts they talk of, such as the dark night of the soul, where a person could go through a dark period where they feel disconnected from everything? So the dark night of the soul is nothing more than that. Sounds very intimidating, right? The dark night of the soul. Don't be too intimidated by that. All that is a reference to the possibility that said person, when they start to not follow their mind as much and they start to distance themselves from the mind, they might have this awakening where they're like, oh, everything I thought I knew was not true. I'm not actually my mind. I am the awareness behind my mind, and as the awareness, I have a choice. And once they make that realization, doesn't happen to everybody, but once they make that realization, they start to feel this sense of, oh God, everything I thought was correct is not correct, and everything I thought that I was is not truly who I am. And for some people, that can be a little alarming, and that's all the dark night of the soul really is. In fact, most people don't even experience any sort of, oh shit, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't even go through that, but that's really all that is. Did you learn everything you know off from Clear Weeks? Not everything. Clear Weeks was my starting point. Clear Weeks was my inspiration. Clear Weeks was my foot in the water, so to speak. I learned about acceptance, but then as I moved forward, when it came to stuff like the mind and thoughts, Clear Weeks does touch on thoughts, but not really. I can't speak for all of her books. I only read Hope and Help for Your Nerves. She doesn't go too deep with it, so for stuff like, the mind and thoughts, I moved on to other teachers eventually, like Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, Moji, stuff like that. So I've learned a lot from multiple different sources, and of course, just my own personal experience. My own personal experience plays a big part in what I do. For years and years and years, I was stuck in a battle with my mind. I was going back and forth trying to figure it all out. Um, so yeah, it's multiple sources. But I will always give Claire Weeks the biggest amount of props because she got me into this sort of thing. Does that make sense? It may not be where all of my knowledge came from. It may not be my main source of knowledge, but it is where it all began. Acceptance and that sort of thing. Claire Weeks is where it all began for me. So she will always have a special place in my heart. I'm gonna drop the Discord link again. Did you listen to Sad H Guru? I love him too. I've just only recently started to listen to a lot of his stuff within like the past year or so, so sometimes I forget to include him, but yes, I love him. Although I wouldn't say I'm too invested in the spiritual side to things, I do love listening to him. So don't get confused on terms. Don't let your mind warp what it means to be spiritual. Again, the term spiritual is just a term. You guys know that I hate terms because terms lead to too much mental narrative. They lead to too much judgment. So let's forget the term spiritual even exists and let's call it self improvement because that's all it is. You can call it spiritual, but at the end of the day, it's just self improvement. It's just learning about your body and your mind. So don't get too caught up on the terms. I see it happen all the time. People think, well, I don't want to be a spiritual person. Well, all that is self growth and self improvement. That's all that means. That's all that term means. So if you don't want that, then so be it, I guess. So don't let your mind get a hold of terms. It's not a good idea. It's never a good idea. Because that used to be me. I was like, what is this nonsense? And it's because I was trying to see it from a place of mental blah blah. And then it became all confusing, and then it became all what, you know? I'm bad with labels. Most people are bad with labels because, like I said, labels are an excellent way for the brain, the mind, to grab a hold of something, judge it, twist it, manipulate it, right? These are what labels are good for. That's what labels are good for. I understand that we need them sometimes. I get that. I understand that we need them, but just be cautious. Just be cautious of labels. Don't see everything at face value, right? So when we say the term spiritual, don't take that and turn it into this or turn it into that. All it means is self growth, self improvement, right? Self improvement, self growth. Don't let your mind turn it into something it's not. Mind is good at that. Mind is very good at that. It's funny how that works. You could have somebody who's so ready and so willing to improve their life, to improve their self, and because of the term spiritual, they refuse to watch the videos. They refuse to watch Sad H Guru. They refuse to watch Moji. They refuse to listen because of the term. They're so ready and they're so willing to heal and improve and learn new things about their body and mind, but because of that term, they're no longer willing. It's funny how that works. That's why I hate terms. I feel like I missed something important. We're just chatting, dude. We're just chatting. If you were here for the "it is what it is" rant, then you've got the most important part out of this stream. Don't worry about it. You got the most important part out of this stream. You're exactly right, Jay Awesome. You're exactly right, which is why we went over this mantra today. Because this mantra, essentially, that's what it's pointing at. It's pointing at dropping it. So that's why we went over that today. Well, see, the funny thing about that statement is that when you say the term meditation, when we say live by the mantra, it is what it is, which means make sure you put the period after that, don't get involved in the self talk after that. If you're using that or if you're floating, don't get, again, comes back to terms. Don't get too confused on terms. If you're doing any of the stuff that we recommend here on the channel, which all comes back to the same thing, letting your thoughts and feelings come and go without involvement, if you're doing that, then you are meditating. That is meditation. Meditation, mindfulness, it's all pointing at the same thing. It's all pointing at the same thing. Your mind can say, well, the more advanced stuff, I get what you're getting at. I get what you're getting at. The more advanced stuff, the more advanced lectures, in a sense, that's true, but also let's forget about calling anything advanced. Let's forget about calling it deeper. Let's forget about calling it this, calling it that. Let's not call it anything anymore. Let's just roll with it, right? And that's what all of these practices and all of these teachings are pointing towards, is to allow your feelings and thoughts to come and go without involvement. There's no need to call it advanced. There's no need. You see what I'm getting at? All of these terms like mindfulness, acceptance, meditation, floating, not getting involved, not investing, not logging in, it is what it is. All of these great terms are pointing at the same truth, to let your thoughts and feelings come and go without adding to it, right? Right? So even though these people they mean well, when someone tells you maybe you should practice meditation, they mean well, but I like to be general. I like to be general because there's no point to be there's no point in being anything but general. There's no point in overcomplicating it. So these people, when they recommend these different techniques, right, they mean well. But at the end of the day, let's just be very general. It's better to just be very general because it's all pointing at the same truth anyway, which is non-involvement. All these techniques and these terms, they're all pointing towards the same truth anyway. So we might as well just be general. Yes, yes, huge difference. I'm glad you realized that for yourself. Meditation is to not have zero thoughts. That's an impossible act. Meditation is the act of being more aware of your thoughts as they come and go, but keeping the focus here so that you don't get involved. Do you see how that's coming full circles? The don't get involved part? I don't care if you want to call it the present moment, meditation, floating, acceptance, yada, yada, yada. It all comes back to what, chat? Not getting involved. So there's a million different words for it, but why overcomplicate it when it's all coming back to the same thing anyway? It's all coming back to not getting involved, so why overcomplicate it? Why overcomplicate it if all these different techniques are coming back to the same thing, which is don't get involved. Don't get involved. So it's kind of funny in that way. Um, you could have someone who says I've healed because I am a master meditator, and then on the same flip of the page, you can have someone um, who's not a master, who doesn't have the robes, who doesn't have the meditation robes, who's covered in tattoos and drinks 2 liters of Mountain Dew and burps too much and farts too much, doesn't own a single meditation robe, doesn't listen to anything spiritual, and he's healed too. Because guess what? He decided to live by it is what it is. When his thoughts and his feelings came, he said, you know what? It is what it is. And he dropped it right there. He put a period on it. He didn't do any more self talk after that. And he healed, and he's chugging 2 liters of Mountain Dew, and he's farting, and he's burping, and he's covered. I'm describing myself, by the way. And then, and then you've got someone who's a master meditator, and he's got all these robes, and he sits around and he does the chants and the hums, and he doesn't follow his thoughts, and he's out in nature a lot, and he's with the birds and the grasshoppers and the underneath the starry skies, and he's healed too. They're both healed. Why? Because they both realized something. They both realized one thing, and that's to stop getting involved with the mind, to let the feelings and the thoughts come and go without getting involved. They both realize that same truth, and although one of them is overweight and drinks too much Mountain Dew and farts and burps and does whatever he does, and one of them's a master meditator with his robes and his gong and everything else, they both realize the same thing. They both realize the same thing, and that's to stop getting involved with the feelings and the thoughts, to let them come and go. So you can go whatever personality route you want to go. You can go whatever personality trait you have. Whether you're more of the dew drinker or the master meditator, as long as you realize the same truth, you're going to have the same results. Does that make sense? Well, the thing is, it's not that he got over his problems in a day, it's that he realized that problems were created up here. He realized that he wasn't the voice in the head, and he stopped following his negative thoughts, and at that point, life began to become peaceful. Does that make sense? It's not that he got rid of his problems. You still have problems in your life situation, whatever. It's that he realized that he wasn't the voice in the head, and that was his awakening. Wonder, bro, how do you control anxiety while you're sleeping? You can feel it. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I've been approached with this question quite often. How to control anxiety when you're asleep. And I don't quite comprehend. I'm going to be honest. I don't quite comprehend that question. For me personally, when I'm asleep, I'm unconscious, so I don't know if there's anything like that going on. So what do you mean by asleep? Because there's no way, if you're truly asleep, you're no longer conscious. How do you Can someone clarify for me what that means? What do you mean how to control anxiety when you're sleeping? Are you not truly sleeping? Are you talking about that half asleep state? Are you talking about that half asleep state? Is that what you're referring to? I'm sorry, I'm just very confused anytime someone asks me that. I want to answer that. I really want to answer that. I'm not comprehending. Um, Placebo first. I've heard that name, Jay Awesome, but I've never looked into his stuff. I've never looked into any of his stuff. Yeah, we think these guys never feel emotion anymore. They do, they're just no longer involved. There's no second fear, right? Alright, guys. Ugh, I'm gonna grab me another smoke. So, are you referring to the half asleep state, or are you referring to waking up feeling anxious? I'm trying to understand. I really am. Are you referring to the half asleep state or waking up feeling anxious? Asleep, but aware of the feeling, the chest feeling weird. Well, then you must not be truly asleep. You must be half asleep or in that weird transitional phase, because if you were full blown asleep, unless you're starting to astro project, then I don't know how you could be aware of the chest. I'm not doubting you, believe me, I'm not doubting you. I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to understand. So you might be talking about that half asleep state where you're like, you've fallen asleep, but you're not into a deep sleep. It's like, you know what I mean? That awkward transitional phase between fully aware and starting to fall into sleep. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, your mind is still awake when you're asleep, but you're not conscious, right? Right, the brain doesn't sleep, yeah. So we can wake up in a panic, we can wake up with anxiety. That is true. But I'm trying to understand. Are you talking about waking up with anxiety? Or are you talking about that half asleep stage where you've almost fallen asleep? You know what I mean? But you're still conscious? Half asleep. So it's that awkward transitional phase when your head hits the pillow and you're starting to fall asleep, but there you're still aware of the body at that point. You've not fallen into quite that full state of sleep yet. If that's what you're referring to, I get what you're talking about. I get what you're saying. Okay? And these are just you become more aware. You tend to become more aware of the symptoms when you're laying down and you've got nothing to do. Okay, so, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with becoming more aware of the symptoms, as long as you're not adding a story, as long as you're not telling a story. It is what it is, right? So that's fine. There's nothing there's not a problem per se with becoming more aware of your feelings when you're in bed because there's nothing to focus elsewhere on. That's fine. Awareness is not a problem. It only becomes a problem when we start to attach a story when we don't say it is what it is, period. You get what I'm saying? So you've got the weird feeling in the chest when you're half asleep or falling asleep. You're aware of it. You tend to be more aware of it when you're in bed. That's fine as long as it is what it is. You get what I'm getting at? You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Yeah, I like what Face Paint said. Your mind is still awake when you're sleeping. Yes, you're not conscious, but the brain is still, the brain doesn't sleep. So body is asleep, the brain is still operating, right? This leads to things like dreams. This leads to things like waking up with anxiety. This leads to things like people call it nocturnal panic attacks. This is all very true. Um, but I guess there was some miscommunication. I was trying to understand what you meant by feeling the chest symptoms when you're actually asleep. But I think I get what you're saying now. That transitional stage between being almost asleep but not quite fully asleep yet. I think that's what you're referring to, and we would treat that the same way. We would treat that the same way as we would anything that we're aware of during the day when we're fully awake. So symptoms might wake you up, or you might experience symptoms when you're half asleep, when you're trying to fall asleep, which, like I said, I think that's what you're referring to. Um, And again, my answer is we treat that the same. We treat that the same as we would treat symptoms and thoughts during our day. We treat it the same. Not involved. It is what it is, period. The period being the most important part. Honestly, guys, here lately, okay, I've done some I've done some experiments with those lucid dreaming videos, whatever. I wouldn't recommend it for sensitized people, but it's quite interesting. I've been watching videos on lucid dreaming and those videos that put you on certain frequencies that can create lucid dreaming. And I've been watching a lot of documentaries and stuff on that. Um, I haven't really had any sort of interesting experiences with it yet. I've tried. I haven't really had any interesting experiences, but does anybody know what I'm talking about since we're on the subject of sleep? Has anybody ever watched any of those documentaries? Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I can hear my body now. I can hear my mind now. Yeah, keep fucking around. Keep fucking around with lucid dreaming and we're going to test your acceptance. I don't know, it's just very interesting to me. I've been researching it. Because there's like actual videos that you can watch before you fall asleep that'll actually force the lucid dreaming state, which I think could be very interesting. It's like the time Eckhart Tolle did acid. Did anybody know that? That actually happened. Eckhart Tolle tried acid, and he said he preferred his he said he preferred his natural present state. I'm sure he wasn't bothered by it. I'm sure he was present and accepting enough of his experience to do that sort of thing and not be bothered. Um, Still interesting to think about. Can you imagine? I found it hard to believe when I heard that. When he talks about it himself when he tried acid. I find it hard to believe Eckhart Tolle tripping on acid, but it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, the man's got such a level of presence and non-involvement with his thoughts or feelings. There's no story attached to any feeling or thought that he experiences, right? There's no second fear. It's just a total acceptance of what is. It is what it is, period. He is the poster child for that mantra. So of course he could do any sort of hallucinogenic that he wanted, and it wouldn't cause any sort of bad experience because a bad experience can only be as bad as the story you tell yourself about the experience. And since there's no story with the way that he lives his life, because again he is the poster child for it is what it is. Of course he could try LSD and be unbothered by it. But I still think it's just very interesting to know that once upon a time, little old innocent old Eckhart Tolle was tripping balls on acid. He talked about it and about the LSD in an interview. Yeah, right. It's crazy. It's not really crazy. It's just kind of I don't know. It's not what you would expect. You wouldn't expect little old innocent Eckhart Tolle to be doing something like that. Just goes to show you though. That's a perfect example. Okay, and I don't really want to use drugs as an example, but it is a really good example nonetheless. You can have someone who takes LSD and one of them has a very horrible experience with it while the other one has a very pleasant experience with it. And what makes the difference between the pleasant experience and the horrible experience? Well, whether or not said person is able to leave it as it is what it is. Or do they start to attach some sort of horror story to it? Do they start to tell themselves some sort of horror story? Do they start to get involved mentally? And that's the only difference between the person who absolutely enjoys hallucinogenic drugs and a person who hates it. The only difference is which one has a more firmer stance on it is what it is. And that means it is what it is, end of story, right? And that's really the only difference between person A and person B. And that's going to be the deciding factor on whether or not they enjoy their experience with whatever drug it is that they chose. Again, it's kind of odd using drugs as an example, but we see it all the time. And what's the difference? What's the difference between the person who enjoys their experience with this hallucinogenic and somebody who doesn't? What's the difference? Okay, one of them lives by it is what it is. There's no horror stories, there's nothing attached. Feelings and thoughts come and go, but it is what it is. And this person's going to have an enjoyable time. Other person is not going to have such a great time. And that's the only difference. So just another example. I streamed at about 8, 9 a.m. my time. So I finally got my sleep on track. Finally got my sleep on track. I went to sleep last night, slept through the night. I was up bright and early this morning at about 7 8 a.m. I jumped right on a stream. Why am I getting a little loading? Okay, there we go. I used to have huge, huge, major issues with sleeping when I drank too much caffeine. But we're back on a normal sleep schedule. It never lasts for long because I always end up staying up too late doing something, and then I mess it up. When I was fully sensitized, I experienced something where it sounded like a real voice whispering in my ear, but the whisper was something violent. So, hearing or seeing things, these can be symptoms of the sensitized state, especially if you're going far too long without sleep. Okay, um, which is something that does happen to a lot of sensitized people. They go far too long without being able to sleep, and some of these things can happen as a result. Right when the brain gets too tired, it's nothing to be afraid of. But like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I'm assuming you've been cleared by some sort of doctor. Um, but yeah, it's not it's not completely unheard of to hear things that aren't exactly there, or maybe to see something that's not really there. And we're not talking vivid hallucinations. We're not talking vivid hallucinations that are crystal clear. We're just talking about, maybe something out of the corner of the eye, or maybe you hear something and it just sounded, like something that wasn't actually there. You know what I mean? These things can happen, especially if you mix a sensitized state with not enough sleep. These things can happen on and off. But again, not a doctor. I'm assuming you've brought those concerns to a doctor already. Dude, I'm caffeine sensitive. I used to have major sleep issues when I drank too much caffeine. Nowadays, I kind of limit my caffeine intake because I know I'm not going to be able to sleep if I don't. Gotcha. Thank you, WB. I always slept in so late when I was sensitized. Yeah, it happens. And like I said, we're not talking like crystal clear hallucinations, but it's not uncommon to maybe see something out of the corner of your eye that you think is there, maybe to hear something that's not exactly there. In these small ways, these little small ways, it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. The mind is it's a funny thing. Now, if you're starting to hear voices, uh, like somebody's in the room with you and you're starting to hear voices. I'm not talking about the voice in your head, but I'm talking about voices. If this is starting to become a common occurrence for you and you're having a lot of vivid hallucinations and this is happening on a daily basis or it's happening on a frequent basis, this is maybe something, or well, it is something that you should take to a doctor, get diagnosed. But if you're just having, oh, I think I seen something out of the corner of my eye, or I think I heard a voice or something, and this is just something that happens very rarely, then this is just the mind. This is just the mind doing what the mind does. It's a funny thing. It's a powerful thing. But yeah, there's there's a difference between having vivid hallucinations very frequently, hearing voices very frequently, and catching something out of the corner of your eye or hearing a voice, um, and then it never happened again, whatever. Big difference there. Big difference there. Hey, Wonder Bro, I follow you on Instagram. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it, Brady. I stopped caffeine because even when I didn't have anxiety issues, I had jitter issues. But I do green tea. Yeah, I had to limit myself on the caffeine because I just couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep. I'm like caffeine sensitive. Something similar to a state of meditation. Gotcha. Yeah, if this is not a common reoccurring theme for you and it's not something that happens often, and this is something you're not plagued by like every day or that frequently, then I probably wouldn't worry about it. Again, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. This is just my opinion, but yeah. Which is causing anxiety. So is the headache causing anxiety, or is the story about the headache causing anxiety? You see what we're getting at? Drop the story. There's no need for the story. So feelings, thoughts come. There's no need for the story. Yeah, no problem, John. Oh, we back on. I've missed. It'll be uploaded, dude. Don't worry about it. It'll be uploaded. All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here. This has been a great stream. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so much. Uh, oof, I burped. Good, good stream. Good stream. I try to observe it, but it's difficult. Just remember, true observation has no sort of story attached. Remember that. All right, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and